back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And you may hear a lot of commotion in the background because I've got the air conditioner going because it is hot. So today we're going to start another project, totally different than I've ever done before. And I got some hair on cowhide, and this one's black and white. And I actually bought 3 full hides at a sale and got a great deal on them, so I'm going to make a few projects out of them. But what I'm going to do with that is I bought an antique chair, a wooden just sitting chair, and I noticed when I bought it, it had been recovered before, the seat. And when I took this seat off of it, what I found was originally this had been a wicker seat chair. So it had a wicker inlay for the seat part of it. So what I wanted to do when somebody redid this part, they put wood on it and then they covered it, but they put a little bit of padding in there. So I'm going to leave that on there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hair on cowhide on top of that, and I'm going to use upholstery tacks around that padded seat that they put on there, so that my hair on cowhide cover is going to be padded. So it should be a nice seat, should look great, especially against that darker wood antique chair. So come on in and let's get started. Alright, so what I've done is I cut a section out of that big hide that'll fit over this padded seat cover, and then what I did is I flipped it over, took that seat cover, and I'll show you how I did it. And this has little wings on it for the back to attach to the chair. But then I just set that on top of the back side of the hide, took a Sharpie and went around the seat, and that's what the inner mark is. So I've got an inner mark and then I've got an outer mark. On the outer mark, I went 3/4 of an inch. I just measured it 3/4 of an inch out from the inside mark, and you can see it here. Here's my inside mark that I traced around the old seat. Then I went out 3/4 of an inch, and then when I got to the corners, I just used an inside roll from a piece of, or a roll of tape, and then used that to round my outside corners so that it looks nice when we put it on the chair itself. So I've got my piece of leather laid out. The hardware that I'm using, I just went to Hobby Lobby and got these decorative upholstery tacks. They were very inexpensive. I think there was 48 or something like that in a package for like $2.99 or $1.99. It wasn't very expensive. So my next step is to cut my piece of cowhide leather out. So I'll follow that outside line, and I'm going to go, since I used a Sharpie, I'm going to go to the outside of that because it's a pretty thick line. So instead of cutting right on the line, I'll go to the outside of it. That way I know I'm going to have plenty of material. It's one of those things you don't want to short yourself. I'll double check. It is cutting all the way through. I can turn it. I want to keep it on my self-healing mat. And then another thing is when you're cutting this cowhide, the hair on stuff, it can make a mess with the hair when you're cutting it like this, because you are going to cut through some of the hair on the other side. So I just try to keep it pushed into a pile to keep it out of my way. But you can see some of that hair you will cut through some of that hair. So just be prepared for that, so you can get rid of it, or a little shop vac or something like that. Suck it right up, and then you can keep it out of your way. But I want to try to keep all this separate and do most of my work on the chair anyway, but I got to do my cutting on my self-healing mat here. And I'm going to go down so far because this is so long, and then again I'll push that hair that I cut through, push it out of the way, and I'll move my piece of leather again so that I can continue my cut on my mat. And I can go around the corner. I just continue to lift, move it, and push that hair into that pile. And there's my first piece. Of scrap off of there, and I can move that out of the way. Over there with the hair. Come back down here and continue. And again, don't hesitate if halfway, or you get part of the way through your cut, and you feel your blade getting dull, don't hesitate to stop, put a new blade in. I'll just continue around that corner. Again, keep pushing as I move my leather. I'll keep pushing that cut hair out of my way. And I'm on the last corner here. And there it is. I could trim off that excess hair right there on that corner, and there's all my scrap and that hair. I've got it out of my way. There's a little bit of hair hanging over here. I'll go ahead and trim that off. So you can move it around and see if you have any excess hair hanging over that you don't want on your chair cover, and just trim it off. So there's my cut piece. Got a nice big section of black hair, smaller section of white hair. So it should be a neat pattern on the seat. So the next thing we'll do is I'm going to take a pair of small needle nose and I'm going to take my ruler and my hardware over to the chair, and I'll see you there. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my pad that was on the chair originally, that is covering that piece of wood that someone else put on there, and that's for stability when you sit down. I want to make sure that it is square on there and that it looks correct. Then I need to fit my piece of leather around that, because that is actually going to have to fit over and out toward the side or the edge of the seat of the chair, so that when I put my tacks in, we're pushing up against the underneath pad. So we don't want a lot of air in this. We want that fairly flat on that pad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here in the center of the front and make sure that I get my first tack in there, and what that'll do is that'll stabilize my piece of leather so it can't move around. Now I should be able to kind of push this leather back a little bit on the edge toward the seat, because you got to remember it's probably 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch thick under there. So I'm going to push that through my leather. Then I'm going to take my small needle nose that I showed you, and that's what I'm going to guide that tack with as I put it in. So I can grab a hold of that and push that piece of leather back a little bit, because my tack's through the leather, it's just not into the chair. And then I can tap that tack right in. Now I'm going to go approximately an inch. I'm going to look and see here. I think I'm going to go 2 inches apart, and I want to keep it pretty exact because I want it to look I want it to look pretty exact. So I'll just go center to center 2 inches. And again, I don't want to put my tack way out to the edge, because the head of the tack is about 3/8 of an inch. So once I get it through the leather, I'll push it back with the needle nose. And you will have some hair wanting to come off of this as you tap those down, and that's normal. You might want to vacuum it when you're done, just to pull some of that excess hair that you cut off of there when you was cutting your leather. We'll go 2 inches again. And this is going to be a time-consuming process, but I think it's going to be well worth it. It's going to turn out nice. There's my third tack, and I am tapping those down, and then once I get them all the way in straight, I'll hit them good and hard, make sure they're sunk into the leather, and that's going to make that very, very stable. So I'm going to go ahead and continue doing this, and then I'll be back. Alright, so I've got all my tacks in now. My seat is solid. It's not going anywhere. All I have to do is make sure I flip the chair over and go ahead and tack in my little metal arms that they had on the seat from the wood piece. But as far as the seat itself, it's not going anywhere. And you can see it turned out pretty nice. And I put those tacks 2 inches apart. So you can see it turned out pretty sharp. Nice hair-on cowhide seat on an antique wooden chair. I think I gave $10 for the chair at a flea market. It was nice and ornate, solid. Like I said, I picked up the hair-on cowhide at a sale where I bought 3 full hides, so I got them fairly cheap. So I didn't bother me to cut them up a little bit, so I use them for smaller projects. So hope this was helpful, give you an idea on something to do. It'd be really awesome if you had a log cabin or something like that to do 4 of these for an old barn table, or 6 of them farm table. It'd be really cool. And we're going to put this one in, we have a small cabin in the woods, so we're going to put this one in there just for decoration. Obviously you can sit on it. It's very solid. It's not bad. It's got high back. It's comfortable. So cheap project, quick project. Try it out. See what you think. I appreciate you coming along. Appreciate you watching. Come back next week. Check out the next project. And like I always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.